You had 5 takeaways from minicamp. One of them is he's back, is in Odell, and he certainly looks like he is fast and able to cut and do all the things that he could before.
Yeah, it really does. And, again, it's amazing. It's only 7 months removed from that ACL surgery, and that's a really quick recovery. And to see him run routes and cut and look like he's going full speed, we did not get to talk to Odell. So maybe he could say he's only at 95% or whatever that number is. But to my eye, he looked really, really good. And the same, Baker said the same thing, and Jarvis Landry and Kevin Stefanski. So it was pretty unanimous just how good he looked. And yeah, you saw him run close to full speed, if not full speed, cut, jump, catch, all the things a receiver needs to do.
And that, again, I'm with you. I think that could mean really big things for this offense. Second on your takeaways of 5, fitting in, and that refers to Jadeveon Clowney. Again, if he finds a way to be a part of this defensive line, that could be huge for this defense.
Yeah, and this was the first time we got to see him, right? We talked to him once when he signed, but this was the first time on the field, and really it was the first time the coaches got to see him on the field in a Browns uniform because he wasn't at the OTAs. So, number one, it's just good to see him in person, and you get, it's different watching a guy on TV or on film or even from a press box, and then you're up close watching him go through the drills. And he looked explosive. He looked quick. And then there was the injury component with him. And he had surgery in December to repair a torn meniscus. Obviously not as serious a surgery as Odell's torn ACL, but still significant. And the fact that he looked good and he declared himself fully healthy, said he wouldn't have been at minicamp if he weren't fully healthy, is a really good sign. And when you think about what this defensive line can look like, and you have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney on the other end, and Tack McKinley, which if you go to passing downs and McKinley's at one end, and then Garrett and Clowney is at the other end, one of those guys slides inside, probably with Malik Jackson. All of a sudden, it looks like a really big-time defensive line, and that's what Clowney said. And I'm working on a story about that, is he compared them to the 2019 49ers. Said the D-line reminded him of that, and that was the D-line carried that Niners team to the Super Bowl, and they had a chance to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So, I think this line has a way to go to prove it's that good and that deep, because that Niners D-line was really deep. But you see the pieces, and the number 2 most important piece, I would argue, is Clowney. Maybe he doesn't have to play like the number 1 overall pick, but he's got to play like a legitimate big-time end opposite Myles, so that one of those guys has one-on-one blocking and can defeat that and get to the quarterback.
Yeah, and don't minimize a meniscus tear. Think about playing defensive line or offensive line basically with one leg being at full strength, and that's kind of what Jadeveon Clowney was trying to do a season ago. Your third takeaway, and this one equally as important, ready to go, and that's referring to the quarterback, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of discussion in the last month because they're kind of in a vacuum. There's not a whole lot to talk about. And it was Baker and Mayfield not being at OTAs, and pretty much the whole starting offense not being at OTAs. Well, everybody was at minicamp, and starting with Baker, got rave reviews. Kevin Stefanski, coordinator Alex Van Pelt, both said he looked really comfortable in year 2 of the system, in being in year 2 of the Kevin Stefanski offense. And not that it was in any doubt, but he hadn't practiced in front of the coaches, right? He had a couple of those training sessions in Florida and Texas with some of the skill position guys, but he'd been in all, or at least most of, the offseason meetings, the virtual team meetings and offensive meetings. You go through the playbook, you install the offense. And I think that was really important. And when we talked about guys not being at practice or being at practice, I think we maybe overlooked the fact that those meetings are really important at this time of the year. And it seems like Baker didn't miss a beat, that he's ready to build on what he did over that second half of last season. And it starts with comfort in the offense, and it sure looks like he has it.
So your fourth of 5 takeaways, secondary sights, and referring to Grant Delpit and Greedy Williams.
Yeah, we'd seen a little bit of those guys in OTAs. We saw a lot more of them in minicamp. And the fact that Greedy Williams was the consistent starter in minicamp, opposite Denzel Ward, I don't know how significant it is because, you have training camp, and a lot of times coaches don't let the rookies go with the starters right away, feel like they have to earn it. But I think the fact that he got that many reps with the first team signifies that the Browns are confident he's going to be healthy. And he still needs to pass some of those final hurdles with the shoulder and contact and tackling. But if Greedy Williams is healthy, then that gives you, whether or not it's a training camp battle, but it gives you options at corner. You can go Ward and Williams outside with Troy Hill or Greg Newsome II, maybe playing in the slot. And that was something I'm not sure we expected to see, but we saw in minicamp is Newsome taking reps at nickelback, which gives Joe Woods more versatility back there. And then Grant Delpit, we haven't really seen him. We saw him for maybe a week and a half of training camp last year, but for him to be out there taking a lot of reps, I think it's a good sign. And, we know Joe Woods wants to use a bunch of safeties, and Grant Delpit's one of those guys he's counting on.
So the fifth of the five up for grabs, and that's in reference to the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be any huge training camp battles this year just because it feels like a lot of these spots are accounted for. But if you look a little deeper, that third receiver spot, I know the fans love Rashard Higgins. And the Browns brought him back on a pretty cheap contract. But it's not guaranteed that he's going to get the most reps at that third spot. You have Kadarius Hodge, who was the number 3 receiver when the season started last year, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, who Baker said looks really good. And he showed glimpses last year in limited time. He made an impact, including that game winner against the Bengals. So you have those two guys, and you have the rookie Anthony Schwartz, who didn't even participate in minicamp because he's dealing with the hamstring. So you get those 4 guys battling for the reps behind Odell and Jarvis Landry. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see who gets the lion's share, if anybody. I don't know if they split them equally or one guy kind of emerges as the true number 3.